Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello, welcome home. Thank you for joining us on episode 219 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom. I'm here with Trevor and Damon. How's it going, guys?
Hey. Okay. I'm going away soon. I'm going to Disney soon, I guess.
June, right?
What do you mean, I guess, though?
It's not really like a big thing on my calendar, but yeah, I guess it's soon, relatively speaking.
When is it in June? Are you not giving those dates away so nobody stalks you while you're there?
No. I think... So we're going to go to the Gaylord Palms to start. I couldn't decide where we were going to go, but the kids all want to go back because they really like it there. There's like a mini water park there. The food's good. It's easy. So I think we're going there starting on the 10th. And then I think we're there the 10th, 11th. Then we're in the tree houses the 12th to the 15th, and that's it. And one day at Epcot, and that's it, man.
All right. Well, yeah, it's coming up soon, so...
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be an interesting vacation. You know, our foot golf plans, it seems that they've fallen through. People's dates didn't match up. So I really don't know what we're doing.
Listeners? Is that what you were going to do?
Yeah. So I don't really know what we're doing now.
You should get like Derek out to do foot golf with you. Derek and his son, or somebody from DVC Resale Market.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we had talked about stopping over there, and then I don't know. It's like lazy. I just don't want to do anything. I think we're going to be at Epcot that one day. I think that we're going to have to hit the pool a few days. My son's in season still. And then I think we're going to hit probably more Universal than anything. We're going to go to City Walk at least once or twice. So we'll see.
All right, cool. So I do want to mention, I want to introduce our guest this week, right? So we do have a guest. We have Jody from DVC Resale Market is on the show this week to answer DVC questions. There's been a lot of DVC news over the past couple of weeks here, and we thought it was a good time to have the resale market on to kind of talk through some of the things going on. So, Jody, welcome to the show. And if you could just, give us a little bit of your background and, your background in DVC and what you do for the resale market and all that stuff, because we always have new listeners coming in. And we were just talking before the show. The last time you've been on was over a year ago. So it's been a while.
Yeah. Hi again. Thanks for having me. So, I'm a sales agent at the DVC resale market. And prior to that, of course, I worked as a direct sales guide at DVC. So I've been doing this now for, a long time, since 2009. So it's been a while and lots of changes I've seen, of course, in the last, 10, 12 years, something like that. My math's bad right now. But anyway, so yeah, I was was the first agent at DVC Resale Market when Nick started the company. I just started part-time, because business wasn't what it is today, and it's grown so much, and obviously went from part-time to full-time, and then we hired on a ton more folks to help out. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
That's great. Well, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here. So
Thanks.
We did have some listeners ask some questions, but I did want to just kind of generally ask you, first of all, I know you just got back from Disneyland and maybe wanted to talk a little bit about the tower, but, I don't know what you wanted to tell us around that.
Well, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. It was nice to see, kind of see in person. It's hard for me. I'm visual, so it's hard for me to kind of hear people explain where the tower is and so forth. But, Disneyland obviously is so very different than Walt Disney World. It's compact, it's cramped. It's like the other side of the back side of the hotel. The tower is homes, residential homes. So, everything's really crammed in there. And so it was neat seeing the progress. Couldn't really get close to it at all. Couldn't see where the pool area would be. You could really just see the construction from a little bit far away. But one of the things I thought that was really interesting, or kind of strange really, is, this is their new big thing. A lot of, especially on the West Coast, this is what everyone's talking about. And there was no marketing material, no collateral, no nothing other than like a poster that was on the wall that blocked off the construction. There was nothing. We went to the sales center, went to say hi to some of the folks, that I used to work with. They don't have anything. They don't even have models. And I just thought that was really, really odd. For such a big project to not even have models to get people kind of excited about it ahead of time. So I thought that was a little strange. But it's right next to the Disneyland Hotel. And, again, it's, for those who've been out there, it's just kind of cracks me up to see that, there's literally houses, like they could throw a tennis ball into the pool area. So it's funny. It's just so different than how spread out Walt Disney World is. It certainly makes getting around and doing multiple things in California a lot easier than here in Florida. But yeah, we couldn't really, there was really nothing to give us, other than what we could see, behind the wall, from behind the wall. Again, I just thought it was really, really odd that there was zero marketing material at all.
Do you think it's possible that's because they hadn't gotten approval for it yet or whatever from I don't know if they get it from Anaheim or from the state or whatever. Cause it seems like they didn't even know when they were going to go on sale. And I'm assuming it was because they were waiting for some sort of governmental approval.
Sure, that may be, but by the time we were there, they had already announced that. So
they'd already announced. They just didn't have anything. Okay.
They just didn't have anything. And even, that's a good point that you make, but I think even without knowing when you can start selling it or when it's going to actually be open and all that, I'd have something there to kind of get people excited. It was just really quiet and,
Disney's usually more ahead of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
That. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
it is kind of weird.
It is odd that, usually they'll have, like you said, some promotion, something like that that will at least make people hyped up about it. But this tower's been in kind of a weird spot, I think.
Yeah, it has. Maybe because they didn't want everybody asking about the transient tax and all that other stuff. I don't know. But it was just, no pamphlets, no, renderings, just Zippo. It was really odd to me.
It's weird they don't have a model room to check out, right? You would think they'd have at least that. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Even if it's not, and to your point, maybe they don't have the final specs of exactly how it's going to look, but there's something they could do, I think they're missing the boat big time there with, marketing of that resort.
Maybe they're just thinking it's going to be so popular that they don't have to do any marketing. It's just,
maybe they could rest on their laurels and see how that works out for them. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's Derek always tells us, when Grand Californian came out, that they couldn't give the contracts away. So It's kind of funny that how much hype there is around the tower, because and especially since, how valuable those contracts are now at Grand Californian.
It's, in hindsight. Yeah. When Grand Cal was brand new, when I first started working directly for Disney, and that was, our drop down, thing. If people, I think there was way better incentives from what I remember, and the price was a little lower. I think we were also selling Bay Lake so it was Bay Lake, Animal Kingdom, and Grand Cal is what we were selling at the time. And Grand Cal is nobody wanted it. And I'm like, just buy it. Almost like you tell someone to buy Saratoga now, buy it and use the points somewhere else, kind of a thing. If they couldn't afford, if it was just better incentives or whatever, it was definitely our fallback, fallback resort, which is kind of funny to think about now. Yeah. But, so very interesting. I got mine, for under $100 a point with the cast member discount.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Foolishly sold it.
That probably hurts Trevor a little bit to hear that.
Yeah.
Trevor's a Disneyland guy.
I wish I could have gotten points there for that price.
Yeah. I wish I didn't sell mine. Yeah, exactly. I wish it would have been my retirement plan had I known. And I'm a Disneyland person too. I grew up in Los Angeles, grew up going to Disneyland. So that's, definitely my, not to sound hokey, but where my heart is. I love Disneyland. It's my childhood memories, and it's changed a ton. Where the resort is, and the new California Adventure was the parking lot we used to
yes,
park
yeah,
in.
I remember
So,
that.
I mean, I do walk around and kind of just, and it's cool, but it's not the same. I get a little bit sad, but obviously, you're not going to have a big 1-story parking lot taking up all that land anymore in this day and age. But it's nice to see how it's grown, but it's still small, which I like. And yeah, and that's where my soft spot is Disneyland. I love it.
So Jody, can you tell us, I know that right now is like a pretty good time to buy resale. It seems to be on a low, although I did see a post that it seems like the prices are starting to rise a little bit. But what would you say the trends are in the resale market right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly no surprise to anybody here. Or news to anybody here. The prices dropped a lot, and we had several months of prices going down, and I think it's definitely hit the bottom. I don't see it. I definitely don't see it going down anymore. I don't think it's going to spike up anytime soon. I could be wrong, but I think we'll see it gradually coming back up, but it's not going to be as erratic as it was. I mean, everything spiked during COVID and all this stuff. And so the last couple of years have just been such a roller coaster, with what's going on, prices spiking, getting to these all-time highs, and then them dropping back down. And I always said it was more of a correction than I know a lot of people, I see the posts on the different websites, and, they're thinking the sky is falling and Bay Lake's going to be $50 a point. And I think it was wishful thinking for a lot of folks. And I mean, in a way, yeah, that'd be great if you're buying, but not so great really if you are actually a member. You don't want your Bay Lake to be worth $50 a point. But I would say it's still a great time to buy, but I think if you wait, you're gonna pay a little bit more. Again, I don't see a big spike in prices unless something weird happens. Again, everything's been so unpredictable the last few years, but I think we've definitely hit the bottom, and I don't think it's going lower, and it's going to slowly climb back up to But again, not crazy
gradual
prices.
Increase.
Yeah, just normal stuff.
Normal fluctuations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Trevor, I don't know if you want to ask questions. I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing.
No, actually, yeah, it's all good. We actually have quite a lot of listener questions for you. So, yeah, why don't we start into this? So, Gina's got one. Gina's
our Disneyland correspondent too.
Yes, Gina, I know.
Yeah. She says, "Hi, Jody. I'm sorry I didn't meet up with you when you were in California. How long do you think the right of first refusal monster will sleep? Is it because DVC is selling so many properties and they're just whatever about resale?"
Right. Yeah, just whatever.
I like the way it's in air quotes, whatever.
I know,
whatever.
Yeah. I don't honestly know. Disney's ROFR has always been their best kept secret. Like even when I worked there, we didn't know what they were going to do. And I mean, if you look back to last year, they were buying back ROFRing Saratoga Springs at as high as 145 a point, which is insane. And obviously it's been dead. They haven't bought anything back. I don't know why. It's just a feeling. There's no data behind this.
No, we reckless speculation on the show.
Oh, great.
We
then
love speculation.
Then awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for the green light there. Yeah, it's, I do have a feeling that they're going to come back. Like they're going to sucker punch us, and it's going to be not one or two trickling in. I just feel like Disney's got something up their sleeve, and it's going to be like 50 we get one day, and they might keep it a little erratic to keep us on our toes. I do have a friend who used to work in the department. He was one of the people who, was in charge of reviewing them and making decisions on what to buy back. And he'd say sometimes they would just do things, to throw people off. They'd they'd buy back a high one, so
you're saying there's no like rhyme or reason or formula to this? Like sometimes they're just like, well, let's just buy that one back.
They do it sometimes to keep so that people can't figure out a pattern, right? I mean, obviously, you see a Bay Lake, even now, if a Bay Lake went through at $50 a point for some silly reason, I still think they'd buy that back even now. There's obviously a minimum threshold. I just don't know. None of us have ever known what it is. We could always speculate based on prior ROFR reports, but that was always just speculation. Obviously, I do think that they have a diehard number that internally they know we can never let a sale below this go. But none of us know what that is. And I'm sure that number's pretty low. It has to be, because a lot of really inexpensive contracts have gone through the last 6 months. But yeah, he did say, every now and then we'll just buy back a really high priced, a 50 point something for $200 a point, or, those crazy ones that you're like, why would they exercise right of first refusal on that? But they did it every now and then just to throw people off. Now, that was 10 years ago that I heard that, or maybe 5-10 years ago. Do they still behave that way? I don't know, but they've obviously been very quiet. And I don't know. It's just a gut feeling that they're going to come back and kind of hit us hard. And it might not be for as long. It might be like one or 2 months where we kind of get a bunch. I don't know if they'll be back to consistently buying things back, because they were on a roll last year towards, in the fall, late summer and fall. I mean, they bought back 30% of our contracts. That's unheard of. So I don't know that they'll go back to that. I mean, it'd be great if they did, frankly. Just in a way, it keeps everything fresh and keeps the market healthy. But and it's not so great for buyers sometimes, because that's part of what, inflated the prices. But so I don't know that they'll be as aggressive as they were last year. That's the most aggressive we've ever seen them. So I don't think that's coming, but I just have a feeling we're going to get hit with a little surprise gotcha. And it's just a feeling. It is reckless speculation, as you say.
That's okay. We love reckless speculation.
Awesome.
We used to do a segment called reckless speculation. We haven't done it in a while, but
I love it.
Yeah, no, that's part of what we like to do here.
Awesome.
So we see I have a little bit of like a rumor here about some changes that DVC made to the public offering statement. That's basically suggesting that the new Polynesian Village resort tower will be a separate association. So with that in mind, Austin says, what does Jody think about the Poly Tower being a separate association or not, since the Cabins at Fort Wilderness was named the 17th DVC resort? Which is actually an interesting point by him, that the fact that they named it the 17th DVC resort. But he also said, wouldn't it be strange to have one part of the Poly Tower resale restrictions and the other part of the Poly without?
Yeah, and that is a good observation. I think it would be incredibly foolish and short-sighted of them to do that with the Poly, to make it part of the newer associations with the restrictions. And they haven't. I mean, I guess, yes, they did it with the cabins, the new Fort Wilderness cabins. But, like when they did the Grand Floridian, they made it part of the existing, association. And historically, they've always kind of done that. The only one that they didn't do that with and made it two separate resorts was the Copper Creek and Boulder Ridge. And I really think that's only because of the time span. They're not going to build a new resort with a 2042 expiration. Yeah. But if they're adding a new tower now, and Poly's still a relatively very new resort, keeping that same expiration date makes sense. It doesn't have 20 years less or anything like that. And having two different ones will cause confusion. I think it would be, prior to what you mentioned about the public offering, I would have said 99% it's going to be the same association. Only because it's what they've done in the past. It's what makes sense, which is kind of funny because Disney doesn't always do what makes sense. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, they're kind of good at that. So I still think, my guess was, all things pointed to me that it would be the same association, just based on how things have gone in the past, and also the optics and how weird it will be to have two. Okay, is this the restricted Poly Tower? Is it, it just creates a mess. Now, the other thing is too, Disney sort of dug themselves in a hole when they did this whole Riviera thing. They didn't think ahead at the repercussions of making a resort with restrictions. I'm sure if they could go back in time, they wouldn't have done it. But so the question is, do they double down on the bad decision and keep doing it, or do they, kind of like in this case, keep it as part of the old association? So I'm not sure. I mean, obviously the new Disneyland Tower is going to be part of the Riviera gang, and I guess the Wilderness, the cabins. I just don't know about this one. I just think my gut tells me it's going to be the same association, but with Disney, you never know.
Yeah, it's also worth noting too, this rumor, and this is, by the way, this is from DVC News, who's some friends. They're also mentioning here too that it almost they mention it in the documentation, reflections, which we assumed was kind of dead. But I mean, but maybe not. Like it might not be. But then there's also some like thought that maybe that somehow they're going to still build reflections, and that the new cabins are somehow going to be bundled into that. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. But
no, none at all. None at all. And it could be just them. I mean, they're not dumb. They do know that we're out there, right? All of these folks that speculate and read the stuff, and maybe they're adding a little fuel to the fire. I don't know, but just kind of generating a buzz. But it would make zero sense to me for them to make Poly as the same as Riviera and with the restrictions. I just think it would be a terrible idea. But again, Disney's done a few, a few terrible ideas. Yeah. And again, are they doubling down? Are they going to double down on the bad decision, or are they going to try and, temper it a little bit? I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Trevor, my question for you is, whether they put it in a new association or the original one, does that change your feelings about buying more points at Poly? Because I know that's where you're going to go, right? You're going to buy more points at Poly. Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely looking at resale points at the Poly. I wouldn't buy points at the new tower because it doesn't suit my family. Like we don't need enough points for like wedding bedrooms and stuff like that. Like studios are definitely what we're after, and the Poly kind of fits us in that way. So yeah, I honestly, I'm hoping that they do separate them personally.
Really?
Because because it keeps, I don't want to say it keeps a line, but I guess it does. It keeps it, very clear. Like, hey, if you want one bedrooms, you go to the new Poly. If you want studios, you go to the old Poly. And like I said, I feel from that point of view, it would stop. I worry that the new tower would end up causing chaos with like trying to do bookings at the Poly in general, just because you've got so many more people in the mix at that point. So I don't know.
I mean, you just got to hope that the tower is more appealing, I guess, to people than the older bungalows. So not bungalows, the other older villas,
the buildings, the original 3 buildings.
I don't know why I said bungalows.
I mean, if you can get a bungalow,
you can. No, you can.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth asked. Actually, you want to do this one, Trevor?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So Elizabeth wants to know, Jody, do you think that the cost per point at the Disneyland Tower is worth it? And I mean, that's very subjective.
That is very subjective. Yeah.
No. So it's a fair question. I think it's a 2-part answer. So I don't think the price is bad at all. I think it's a great price considering that, if you're part one is it's a good price for a new resort in California. It's cheaper than the villas at Grand Californian, right? So I don't really have a problem with the initial price per point. Their incentives didn't really kick in until you bought a lot of points, so the incentives weren't so great. But so the price per point, I don't have a problem with. I think where their challenges are is with this transient tax. The dues are high, and paying for parking. All of those are definitely, obviously big hindrances towards the sales. That's going to affect their sales because people were, it was like, people were super excited about this tower. And then all of a sudden it was like,
that was Trevor. Trevor was very excited about the tower. And then,
Yeah.
So, the tax got me for sure.
Yeah. And then, and the dues are high for, for that resort, I think too, which I don't know. I find it kind of odd that the dues are high for such a small, compact resort, but I mean, it is California. You are paying their premiums there, but I don't know. So I don't think the initial price per point, if you just go off of face value for a new resort at Disneyland, is too high. I think it's actually a decent price, but but with these challenges, I think they're gonna have a hard time selling it.
So here's a question. So you think they're gonna have a hard time selling even at that price point? Like it's gonna be tough, but that's interesting. But I also want to ask too, just like once some of these contracts hit the resale market, I don't want you to necessarily give me what you think the price will be. I mean, but do you think it'll be in the range of a high demand, or like is it going to be like Grand Cal? Is it going to be higher?
I don't think it'll be higher, but I don't think, and I'd mentioned this before. So with the tower having the restriction, the Disneyland Tower, I don't think that's a deterrent because people aren't paying $230 a point or more to use it at Saratoga Springs or Animal Kingdom, right? They're buying it because they want to stay at that tower at Disneyland. They're not buying it for the network for the most part. I'm over some, generalizing, but in general, same reason why people aren't buying Grand Californian at $300 a point to stay elsewhere either. They're buying it because they need points to stay there. So I don't think the restrictions are an issue. And therefore, I think once it gets on the resale market, it won't take the hit that Riviera did. So, Riviera obviously is much less on the resale market than what people paid for it. I don't think it's going to take a big hit on the resale market once it comes on. I don't know what the price is going to be when it finally sells out. I think it depends on what that final price, this final sellout price is, what the resale price will be.
Okay.
It just depends. But I don't think the restriction is going to be a problem. I think, again, the problem is going to be the tax and the parking and the dues.
Do you think, though, like if they do have a hard time selling this, do you think they reverse course on some of those, on like the tax? I mean, like I know they still have to charge the tax, right? But they can roll that into dues like they did with Grand Cal, or I mean, I'm sure they could do something else with it. But or the free parking thing, if they decide, okay, well, maybe we change it and give free parking. Like, do you think it'll be a hard enough time selling it that they'll have to change course on some of those things?
That's a good question. The parking would be an easy fix, I think. I mean, I think changing the dues, and the tax, that's a lot more complicated. Going back to giving them free parking, that's easy. It would be a smart thing to do. But it's kind of funny. I mean, if you look at again, not to totally be slamming Disney, but I don't think their marketing department and their sales department and their finance department get together much, because what makes sense and what would help sell doesn't always happen. I mean, so I just think that, I don't know. Look at Alani, for example, right? They still can't sell that. They were selling that when I worked there. And what do? They raise the price every year. I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what people do. When you can't get rid of something, you just raise the price.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's marketing 101, right? I mean, it's just silly. So I don't know that they always do the right thing when things, are challenging to sell. But I think if they were going to do any, it would be the parking. I think that's the easy fix. I think that tax and the dues, that gets tricky, because if they all of a sudden have a high hike in dues to help cover that tax, that's going to be even more off-putting to some. Yeah. The dues and the tax are the real issue. I mean, parking's secondary. And again, that's an easy fix. I think the tax is, that's much more challenging. I don't know really. I don't think there's a great solution for that.
Don't dues on new resorts though tend to they're like estimating essentially what their costs are going to be, right? So like, don't they start usually a little bit higher and then can come down a little bit if it ends up being cheaper? Am I wrong about that? Am I making that up?
No, you know what, to be honest with you, I don't know. That's a great question. And it's not one I've ever paid attention to.
I might have just made that up. I don't know.
No, it could be. I mean, yes, to answer your question, yes, it's an estimate, but I think by the time they announce them, they're pretty set in stone at that point. I think they were they're pretty close. I mean, obviously other than that Alani disaster, but no, I think they're usually pretty close, but I could be wrong. I actually haven't ever looked at the initial, number that they put out versus how it, what it ends up being. So, you could be right. I thought it was closer to I thought they were pretty accurate, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I'm just, I'm just thinking of, I thought I remembered that one of the resorts started off higher and then went a little bit lower, but I'm probably just making that up. So yeah, okay. Anyway,
I can't think of any instance of that.
I'm probably completely wrong. So I think we're gonna skip Mary's question because, and Mary, I'm sorry to skip your question, but this is more of a rental question, right? So,
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So Mary, we'll direct your question to DVC Rental Store on that one because we have Jody here, who's a DVC resale person. So, but Dan wants to know, when does she see the market for Grand Cal contracts stabilizing, coming back down to earth? And I guess the question is, too here, and I'll add my own thing here. Do you think the tower is going to have an effect on that? Like, do you think the tower going on sale will bring Grand Cal kind of a little bit down?
No, I think it did. It did bring initially. Yes, it did. I mean, if you looked at the numbers of Grand Cal, I mean, obviously everything went down in price the last few, 6 months or so. Just the whole market in general went down, but Grand Cal in particular, we had a lot of inventory sitting there because people were waiting to find out what the scoop was on the tower before they bought. So of course, more inventory, prices go down. That's that general supply and demand. Now, with a lot of people being less excited about the new tower, you saw what happened, or maybe you didn't, but if you noticed that the Grand Cal, again, our inventory, as soon as we get something on there, they've been selling literally within minutes of being on the website. And we're back up to $300 a point now. So I don't, unless something really strange happens, I don't see that changing unless we get a buildup of inventory for some reason again. I don't see the prices of Grand Cal going down anytime soon. It took a dip, and again, it was part of what was going on with the market. But what I was hearing was a lot of people waiting to sell or buy the Grand Cal until they knew what was going on with the new tower. They don't want to buy Grand Cal if the tower was going to be a better fit for them. And then, of course, with this news, a lot of people said, "Okay, no to the tower. We're with Grand Cal," and everything we had got snatched up quick.
Wow! So it actually had the opposite effect.
Yes. Once it was announced, once we got the scoop, it had the opposite effect. Now, before anyone knew what was going on, it did drive prices down a bit because no one was, a lot of people the inventory was building up because people didn't want to buy it just yet. They wanted to wait and see. And then, of course, when they saw, they were like, okay, yeah, no thanks. We'll go get some Grand Cal. And now we can't keep it in stock. I mean, it was funny. It's like literally within minutes it's sold. So, and again, back up to about 300 a point. So I don't see it going down anytime soon. Again, unless something really strange happens, maybe some changes with the tower that I don't really see happening, but I think it's going to stay up in the high twos or sitting around 300 for a while.
Okay. Right. I do want to say I pulled up some information about dues history, and I am not completely wrong about this. So Villas at Grand Floridian went down 2.7% in its second year.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And then Riviera went down after its in its second year very slightly. But
okay.
So there you go. See, I didn't make this up completely.
No, we wouldn't accuse you of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, Riviera went from 839 a point to 838. So it's not like it was that big of a decrease.
Yeah. Didn't move the needle much.
But Grand Floridian went from 552 to 537 from its second year to its third. So, I mean, all right. So I'm just glad I didn't make this up. I knew in my head somewhere it happened. But anyway.
Yes.
Let's see. Trevor, you want to do this one,
right,
especially with your feelings on the transient tax?
Yeah. So Rai asks, do you think that the high transient tax at the tower can bleed over to Grand Cal in the future? And then there's a second question, which is, can all the DVC resorts eventually lose free parking? Which I'm guessing that's alluding to the fact that you're paying for it at Disneyland, but I don't think the two are related. But
no.
Yeah,
Considering
agree.
they just got rid of all the parking fees for just regular resorts at Disney World, like I feel like that would be really like a stab in the heart to DVC members to just take that away from us.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as parking goes, I don't think that they'll take it away. Now I heard, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't read up on this. I don't, I didn't read the legal documents, but I do know that a portion of your dues does cover some of, maybe it's not all of it. I don't know the breakdown, but your dues you own at that resort. You're paying dues at that resort. I would imagine when things need to get repaved, parking lot wise and stuff, I don't think that's coming out of Disney's pocket. I think part of your dues do pay for that. So I think that if you're paying to maintain a resort and the parking on it, I don't even know. I think they'd have a little bit of a challenge there with charging to park, if you're a DVC member staying on points. And again, PR wise, it would be, I thought it was stupid when they started to charge to park anyway. But that's like one of my pet peeves in life. I'm cheap when it comes to that. I can't stand having to pay to park. Like, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars at your establishment, and then I have to pay to park to do it as well. It drives me nuts. It's always been a pet peeve of mine, not just with Disney, but anywhere, where you have to pay to park.
Yeah. Factor maintenance of your parking lot into the ticket.
Exactly. Factored into your rate, so you'd have to see it. Yeah.
I get it. Like if I'm parking somewhere and I could be going to multiple places, like if it's a mall or something like that, or where there's different restaurants or something. But obviously if I'm parking at Magic Kingdom or parking at a resort there, I'm only parking there to go into that place. So why am I having to pay, to park to go spend thousands more dollars at your place? So it's always bugged me anyway. And it bothered me when they started charging for parking. I think it'd be, I don't know I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if the legalities of them being able to charge for parking to DVC members without it affecting the dues somehow.
You think the dues would have to go down if they took it?
I would think so, because I don't know how you could justify having someone pay dues to maintain and all of that and to park at their own place without the dues going. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. And because you own that resort, who's the money going to then? Disney? They can't do that. Disney doesn't own that. That's all owned by members. So I just don't see how they could kind of get away with that. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a lawyer here, but I just think they would be getting into some tricky territory. And again, PR wise, would be a really foolish thing for them to do. So I don't see them doing it here at Walt Disney World. It's curious to me why they did it at Disneyland. I'm not sure why, especially knowing they had these other hurdles like the transient tax. I don't know why they would put a double whammy on there. And as far as the other part of that question about it bleeding over into Grand Cal, I don't understand the deficit between the transient tax that was built in at Grand Cal and the one at the new tower, why it's so different.
It is
so much more.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And and that would be a great, if there's an expert on that kind of tax or law or whatever, and they know, that would be a great answer to have. Cause I don't understand. They're right next to each other. It's the same property, on the same, block. Like, I don't understand how one could be so much more than the other. I don't know if Disney had something grandfathered in. Did they negotiate
maybe they made a
something?
deal when they built the tower. Yeah, when they built the building that the tax was going to be X amount for so many years or something.
Yeah. But then,
I do know Disney has historically been doing that with Anaheim, and you're right, that could be it. But yeah.
Well, and hopefully there's not an expiration on that anytime soon, because then, could the prices, the transient tax go up at Grand Cal? That would certainly be a bummer.
Maybe they negotiated for the duration of the life of the resort.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
All right. Last question here. So are the cabins at Fort Wilderness a sign that DVC may be shifting into different categories of resorts? For example, value, moderate, etc. Or does she think that this is a one-off?
So I do know that when I was at Disney, and I still have friends, of course, we still stay in touch with folks there. There is a plan, or was a plan. Now, again, things change, i.e. reflections, right? But there was a plan to have a DVC resort at each of the moderates and possibly even the value. But what I don't know, and that kind of shows you like Riviera being over there in moderate land too. now, does that mean that the resort itself is going to be a moderate resort as opposed to a deluxe resort? I don't know. That's what I don't know is I do think that, yes, they're going to be putting them at all of those locations. That's where they're going to, build the new resorts. But are they going to be kind of like a lowered, more of a value type resort? And then I tried to figure out, well, what does that mean for selling it?
Yeah. What's the price per point going to be? Right.
Right. And then,
lower?
Right. And then that kind of throws everything off because then it's like, well, can they then stay if they paid less per point, can then they go stay at Poly? So what I think if they ever did do that, what they would probably do is charge the same, like 200-ish plus per point. And they would just maybe make the point values to stay at that resort less. That would be the logical way to do it. Instead of using, for example, 20 points a night, if you were staying at Poly, maybe it's 10 if it's a value to moderate. But I still think they'd have to charge the same dollar amount per point to make it fair, because otherwise,
everyone would just buy at the cheaper resort.
You buy at the cheap one.
Yeah.
So, but I do, that has been their plan. Now, again, plans change, but I think we'll see them at all of the different resorts there. But what I just don't know is if they're going to be, more on a moderate level as opposed to a deluxe resort.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions we had. I did want to mention one more thing before we let you go, though, because they just released fairly recently here the add-on incentives for the villas at Disneyland Hotel. And since we've been talking about this, so it looks like the initial incentives are going to be $20 off an add-on of 150 points. Is that, you think that's, a good incentive, or you think they should do more, or, I just don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
I do. I think $20 per point is a great incentive. I don't like that you have to buy 150 as a member to get that, because before that it's nothing, and then it only goes up like I think $1 or $2 a point. It's like 150 to 174, and then it goes up. Then it goes to like $21 or $22 off per point. I'm like, well, that's not going to really get anybody to really, to me, it should be incrementally higher the more you buy. I mean, even $5 a point more would be, to me, I don't see any benefit of going from 150 to 190. You're not really saving on the incentive side of it. But I do think $20 a point that's a pretty good incentive. Again, I think it should have been stacked a little bit better, a little more. The more you buy, I think incrementally it should have gone up a little bit more. And again, I don't like that you really have to get to 150 points as a member adding on to get the $20 off per point.
Because it is interesting. 125 to 149 is $4 per point, and then it jumps to 20 once you hit 150.
Yeah,
so.
I thought that was I thought their tiers were very off. But $20 a point, I think, is a good incentive. I just think the way they configured it and the tiering of it was off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sense. Okay, well, anything else you want to talk about, Jody, before we let you go? We appreciate you coming on and talking DVC with us. We try to talk DVC a lot, but there's not always a lot going on with DVC. So
yeah, there's not always. Sometimes it had been pretty quiet for a while, and then recently it's definitely had a lot of news going on. So no, I think we covered a lot of it. And, obviously if anybody has any questions about, obviously this was heavily focused on the Disneyland news, but, if anybody has any questions, they can always reach out to us, and happy to, answer any questions anybody has. But that's really the big tea that's been going on here is the Disneyland stuff. That's been the buzz.
So Jody, how do our listeners reach out to you if they have questions or they want to contact you?
Sure. Well, my email address is Jody, Jodi, at dvcresalemarket.com, or my phone number is 407-325-7116. Or of course, they just go to our website, and any of us are happy to help.
Absolutely. Well, Trevor, anything else you have, or Damon?
I got one last quick question for you before you go, Jody.
Sure.
What was your favorite ride at Disneyland when you were there?
Oh, well, my all-time favorite ride at Disneyland has got to be the Matterhorn, right? Because
yes, thank you.
We don't have it anywhere else. Come on.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Wait, Trevor, is that your favorite
me,
too?
anyway.
Or-
It is, yes. Matterhorn is definitely my favorite at Disneyland.
That's the answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only acceptable answer.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Everybody else is wrong if they have something else to say. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jody, again for your time today. We really appreciate having you on.
Oh,
and, we'll
thank
definitely have you
you.
on again in the future here. So
Love to. Thanks so much.
all right, so Jody was great. I'm glad we did some DVC stuff. You know, it's always good for us to do DVC stuff. And actually, we're going to go ahead and do our ad right now. And and I wish I could say that we were good enough that we set this up correctly, but the ad this week
we're
is
not
for
that
DVC. Yeah,
well.
We're not that organized. That's no.
Yeah.
So the sponsor of this episode, which, is great that Jody was on for this, is DVC Resale Market. DVC Resale Market, a World of DVC company, is the leader in the DVC resale industry with 13 former Disney Vacation Club guides, Jody included, and 3 former Disney Vacation Club quality assurance managers. If you're thinking of buying DVC, browse the largest selection of DVC resale listings anywhere, with DVC experts on hand 7 days a week to answer your questions. If you're thinking of selling, turn to the friendly professionals at DVC Resale Market, where over 98% of listings sell within 30 days. In 2021, DVC Resale Market helped over 4,400 families join or add on to their memberships. Go to dvcresalemarket.com or call 1-844-DVC-PROS. That's 1-844-382-7767. And when you speak to them, be sure to let them know that Welcome Home sent you. All right, cool.
Okay.
So we lost Damon somewhere along the way, just in case people are wondering where he is. I don't know what happened to him. So
He may pop back in here, but we're gonna keep going. So.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going here. So, and that's okay because we need to spin the wheel, and he doesn't like the wheel sound. So, we need to go ahead and spin the wheel again. So let's do that. Ready?
We should really, yeah.
What? Go ahead. What were you gonna say? We can talk over.
Yeah. We need to get something off of Amazon, a wheel like we talked about last episode.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. All right. So this week it is Space Mountain.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I mean, you got to talk a lot about this one. Yeah.
So I guess let's qualify this first. Are we talking about Space Mountain as a concept or a specific version of Space Mountain? Because there is actually 3
Space Mountain in pretty much every park, isn't there? Except for Shanghai doesn't have one, but Disneyland Paris does, Tokyo does, and Hong Kong does.
Yeah, the Tokyo Disney one is the same as it's almost exactly the same as the Disneyland one. So,
well, yeah, because that whole park was pretty much a carbon copy of Disneyland. So,
yeah, so yeah, because we have Florida version of Space Mountain, which is actually back to we were talking about Matterhorn. That was actually based on it was a whole thing that they were trying to figure out how to put Matterhorn into Disney World, and it didn't really work. So they ended up using the Matterhorn ride structure, but they used it in Space Mountain. And so if you, and that's why I wanted to ask, are we talking specifically about the Florida one? Are we talking about the Disneyland one? Or are we talking about we could talk about Paris as well, because
because Paris is totally different. Paris is a completely different ride than everywhere else. That one goes upside down. That one is launched. It's a whole different situation, right? So yeah, I mean, I think maybe we talk about the 2 originals, right? Maybe we talk about Disneyland and Disney World, and then maybe we could talk a little bit about the Disneyland Paris one, because the other 2 are pretty much just copies, right? So
right.
Yeah, but it's interesting that Shanghai they didn't do Space Mountain there. I feel like I remember reading a reason why. I just don't know at the top of my mind here, right? So you want to talk a little bit about the Disneyland one?
Okay. So you'll have to excuse me first. It's been a while since I've been on the Disneyland version. But I do know this or I guess for anyone who's not been on it, we're used to in Florida, you have the A and the B side, right? Which is back to the whole Matterhorn thing, is Matterhorn runs the same way as that there's an A and a B side to it. The Disneyland one doesn't have that. It's all just one track, and you actually sit side by side on the coaster, which I'm sure if we ever got you out to Disneyland, you would feel very weird about
Very
it.
weird about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I actually find I know I might be in the minority on this. I find the ones at Disney World to be very oddly comfortable. I don't know why. I felt very comfortable in the little bobsleds. I feel like I shouldn't. I feel like everybody else is like, oh, it's all cramped and not comfy. But I don't know. I thought they were pretty comfortable.
They're good, and it's and yeah, because the bobsleds are designed like you're kind of leaning back, and you have more space than you think because your legs actually like go down.
That's why, because you can stretch your legs out. Yeah. Like there's so many of the roller coasters at Disney World that like my legs just feel, and I'm not even that tall, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're taller than me, but like I still have a hard time sometimes, like, Seven Dwarfs and Big Thunder, like just feel
Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah. Seven Dwarfs is the worst, man. I always so cramped on that ride.
Yeah. But yeah, back to Space Mountain. So obviously it's been something that's been part of the park for a long time, and it obviously it wasn't the first mountain. The Matterhorn was the first mountain type ride, but then Walt Disney saw how well it did and decided, hey, let's do Space Mountain or another mountain type ride, right? So hence we got Space Mountain, and the thing that I like about recent Space Mountain, and I guess not everyone's gotten to experience these things necessarily, is this is one of those rides that they actually like to do overlays on, which now just as an asterisk to that, I don't like all overlays because some of them I don't feel improve the ride in any way, but I feel that the Space Mountain ones have always made the ride better in some way, shape, or form. And so the couple of ones that people, or if you've ridden Space Mountain, is you'll get Ghost Galaxy, which is a Halloween themed overlay, which can be kind of scary for kids because they've got projections and stuff that can be very, it's like skull ghosts and stuff like that. Kind of like the Haunted Mansion, but you're not expecting that going on to Space Mountain. So that was cool. And then the other one that they did was Hyperspace Mountain, which was a Star Wars cross up with it, which I rode the one in Disneyland, and it was actually really cool how they timed some of the effects, that it wasn't just like random lights and stuff going off. They actually had like the blaster effects. So it felt like at one point there was an X-Wing flying by, and the way that the lights went, it was like it was firing alongside the ship.
So like you were another X-Wing and it was firing alongside.
Yeah. Or kind of like Star Tours is like, you're in like a dogfight, and, there's ships flying around and everything. So there's been that. And then, they love doing, I don't know if you've been on Space Mountain at Christmas, right? In Florida?
I have not. No, I have not.
Oh, okay. That actually you would know if you did, because I don't think I could see for like 5 minutes after I got off, because they just do like a crazy amount of lights, and there's like Christmas music blasting and stuff. So the thing about all that is that, Space Mountain at its core is, it just like the name sounds, you're just flying through space, but I like it because it's, there's room for them to be creative in it, because it is it's a dark ride, and it's also a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So it seems like they've got space that, they can play with, hey, let's add lighting or let's add effects along the track and stuff like that, which I don't think a lot of rides are necessarily as good of a blank canvas as Space Mountain.
That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's any other fun stuff about Space Mountain that
I'll do
between the two
history.
Yeah,
I'll do some history really quick here. So like the original concept for this was actually created by legendary Disney Imagineer John Hench, who did a lot of the early attractions, and he just wanted to do an indoor dark coaster. But it got put off quite a bit, right? It got put off for a while. But essentially, Disney in the early days didn't have thrill rides, right? So like it was one of those things that they didn't really think they needed thrill rides, and they decided to start adding them in essentially, right? So basically the original was at Magic Kingdom, right? So this was one that started at Disney World and ended up at Disneyland too. So the Magic Kingdom one opened in 1975, and because it was so successful, then they decided to build at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like you said, their initial intention was to copy the Matterhorn, but they didn't think it was going to work, right? It basically just didn't really fit in with what they were doing at Disney World. So then they came back to the Space Mountain idea. And it's worth noting too, like you said, the one at Disney World is 2 tracks. They're both the same amount of duration, right? They both go on for the same amount of time. The same drop, same height, all that stuff. Although one track is 10 feet longer than another one, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
oh no.
yeah, I know. For whatever reason, right? But it's worth noting too. So the maximum speed on, and if you watch Imagineering Story, they talk about this a little bit, where part of the reason why they did it as a dark ride is basically this: it only goes 27 miles per hour, right? Like, and if you think about going through a neighborhood at where the speed limit is 25 miles per hour, and you're driving your car and it feels like you're inching forward, at least I know I do. Like that's how fast it goes, basically, right? It's a fairly slow roller coaster, but because you're in the dark, it feels like you're going so much faster than you actually are, and because of all the effects too, right? Like obviously, like they trick you with that movement of the things going by you and the sound effects. It all kind of
stars and everything.
It all kind of tricks your brain. Yeah. It makes you feel like you're going way faster than you are. So there's that. It's interesting. The differences here, like, and to your point, by the way, so the Disneyland one is actually faster. It actually maxed out at 35 at Disneyland, which is really interesting.
I can, again, thinking back to riding both of them, I can understand that because I remembered, or sorry, just a bit of a random aside. The first one I rode was in Disneyland, right? And so, like I rode that multiple times, and I remember the first time riding it in Florida that I was like, I kind of had the reverse thing happen where I was like expecting it to be the same ride, but then when I got there, I was like, oh, it's 2 tracks. I was like, okay, and then I rode it, and I kind of questioned it myself. I was like, that didn't feel like quite as fast, but after I eventually rode both of them, because since the first time I rode, I've been back to both parks. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one in Disneyland is definitely a faster ride, but it doesn't take away from it in any way. I feel like it, or the Florida one being slower, it doesn't make it feel any worse because
you don't know.
It's still, yeah, it's, and honestly, I think the thing that works to its advantage is the fact that it is the bobsled cars, which are a little bit smaller, like it's a little bit more compact. So it does feel like you're hanging out there a little bit more, which I think helps the ride.
It does feel like if you raise your hands up in the air, you might hit something, right? Like that's.
Have you ever done the or challenged yourself to ride the whole ride with your hands up? Yeah. Well, like the whole ride.
Okay, so not the whole ride, but definitely parts of the ride, right? Like, so there's definitely been parts of the ride I've had my hands up. But like, if you watch a video of it with the lights on, and listen, Disney tests all this stuff, right? Like they have a whole, I think it's called the safety envelope, right? They do a whole thing where it's like, okay, the tallest person with the longest arms in the world, we're going to test to make sure that person couldn't hit anything. So like, really, you couldn't hit the bars above you, but it just feels like you could,
But it's funny because it's that whole like suppressing that fear in your head, which is actually the fun part. Or because I've done that, is I'll get on Space Mountain and I'll put my hands up and just like you tell yourself at certain points, like, okay, just put your hands down because it feels like you're going too fast, or it feels like you're going to fall out or something, right? But yeah, riding the whole ride with your hands up actually makes it better if you can.
I agree. If you could do it, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's some really interesting stuff about Space Mountain and like just how it was, conceived of and all that, and just a lot of the themes that are in it. And it's also one of those things too where they talk about how good ideas at Imagineering never die, right? Like, and this one just kind of sat around for a little while before they decided to build it. So, and like I said, there was a lot of legendary Imagineers that were involved with this one. So, and it's worth noting too. So when they built Disneyland Paris, they decided to do a whole different thing, right? So, and we kind of talked about it for a second here, but basically they made it. They created, at the time, it was the first launch that was done on a hill. I forget what the exact term for that is, but it was an actual launch vehicle, which they had not done before. And I don't think it had ever been done before where it was done on a hill. I saw that in the Imagineering stuff they talked about that.
I thought it was the first time they'd done an LIM launch on a hill.
It was. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, it was the first time. It was like they had to create the technology to do it, essentially.
Yeah,
and
so LIM it's a magnetic launch, basically, for anyone
exactly
wondering what that is. So yeah, it's obviously doing a magnetic launch when it's flat is no, I wouldn't say straightforward, but it's understood at this point, and doing it on an angle like that. And I believe it was because they also had to cue it with, because there's like the outside of Space Mountain, almost, it looks like I don't want to say like a gun, but like it looks like it's like a mechanism that launches it.
Yeah.
And they had to cue that launch with the outer movement so that it looked like it was actually launching the car from this mechanism.
Yeah, and it actually, the original version of it was extraordinarily steampunk, right? Like, it was a very steampunk design. And like you said, it had a cannon, right? And it's the only Space Mountain that has inversions, a launch, and a section of track that exits and re-enters the interior. So it actually goes outside and comes back in again. And it also has synchronized onboard audio, which at the time was also a big deal, right? So, but it was initially it was a Jules Verne theme, right? So like it was themed to Jules Verne, but for some reason they decided to take out all the good stuff, and they like rethemed the whole thing.
Well, I think that was because the Jules Verne thing actually tied in partially with Disneyland when they redid Tomorrowland, because Tomorrowland had that very steampunk theme going on with it as well, but it was not well received at all. Like, people did not like it because it was like Tomorrowland always had that very white, clean, futuristic thing going on, and the steampunk futuristic thing was not a popular aesthetic. Hence, they took a lot of it out, and I think it may have been when they started taking out in Disneyland. I think they may have looked at the Paris park as well and went, "Yeah, we can probably redo this," because then otherwise it gets into that weird place where it's like you see it from time to time. And actually, I wasn't able to get to Hollywood Studios on my last trip, but there was a billboard in Hollywood Studios that still talked about Paradise Pier when I was there in 2019, which at the time I thought was funny because Paradise Pier doesn't exist anymore. It's Pixar Pier.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is, they took it out because... Or I think the reason they took it out was because they didn't want it to be just like this random Jules Verne thing that didn't have any other tie-ins anywhere else.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But so in 2005, they changed it to Space Mountain Mission 2, which essentially they got rid of a lot of the steampunk aspects. And people didn't really care for it. Mm-hmm. And now the current iteration of it, and I kind of forgot about this, is it's Hyperspace Mountain permanently now. So it's Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain permanently, which is funny,
Which I would imagine that one's even more intense than the Disneyland one, which was good.
Yeah. So this one launches to 44 miles per hour. Like we said, it has inversions. It's three different inversions inside of it. Obviously much different than the rest of them. So... but yeah, so I mean, I think that's all I got for Space Mountain. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a ride that, I think it's pretty, or, you can say to somebody, I'm going to Disney, right? And it's like the first thing you think of. Like,
it's very iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost one of those, like you almost see it before, or well, I mean, the funny thing is technically you do see it before the castle when you're coming up to the park, but it also, I think in people's minds is that, when you hear, oh, I'm going to go to a theme park, you think of Space Mountain.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Space Mountain has just kind of reached that, like, that level of just, it's iconic. It's
legendary.
Yeah, it is. It's legendary, right? Like you think of Disney, you think of Space Mountain. That's really, really the truth. So I also, just one last fun fact, that Space Mountain was the first roller coaster to be controlled by computers. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah. Part of the reason why it actually took so long for them to build it is they needed the technology to catch up to the vision, right? So like they didn't have the technology yet for the control systems to have it be controlled by computer. And so it took them some time. And then once the technology was there, then they were able to build it. But that's part of why it took some time for them to build it. So yeah, look at that.
Interesting.
It was also the first roller coaster at Disney World, and the first roller coaster to be entirely indoors. I'm just reading.
Just do all the firsts.
It
was the first roller coaster. No.
Yeah, it was the first in everything. No, that was actually all the first I had left.
Actually, and it wasn't the first steel tube because Matterhorn was the first.
That was Matterhorn. Yes, yes. But it was still probably one of the first steel tube coasters, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I do think that's really really fun facts there. So anyway, all right, should we move on to other stuff?
So yeah, well, in the vein of Star Wars.
Wait, we forgot about the fact that the People Mover goes through the Disney World version. But anyway,
yeah, and
one of my favorite things.
Did it go through? No, it didn't go through the Disneyland one. The Disneyland one goes all over the place, but the Disneyland People Mover doesn't even exist anymore. But we'll get to that.
Well,
later.
So that's kind of a moot point. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy going through that part of the People Mover and just you hear all the screams and it's kind of, and then every once in a while you get to catch it with the lights on, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I've been on the People Mover and I've caught Space Mountain with the lights on, like many times. So, which is listen, when you see it with the lights on, I don't want to say it's not that impressive, but it's not what you imagine it to be if you've never seen it.
You feel like the structure takes up the entire building, and it doesn't.
It doesn't. There's a lot of dead space. There's a lot of emptiness, right? Like, and it's the way the structure is very weird. So, anyway, all right. So do
my segue that's already gone by for.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So we have some info about a new Star Wars photo ops at Disney Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
There's a couple of different things there. So basically they have these different magic shots going on in. Are they? I guess they're all in different parts of.
It looks like the pictures are all over the place, right? Like,
yeah.
But then there's
so you can do the highlights are you can get hollow puck magic shots, which is like you're holding the little hollow puck and there's a character or a hologram coming out of it with the like Grogu or whatever. You can take pictures with BB-8, which is
I like the BB-8
cool.
one. The thumbs up is funny. Yeah.
The Armor's Forge lens is. I don't understand what this is. Maybe you can explain it better than I can.
I don't know. I missed the most recent season of Mandalorian. I haven't watched it yet, so maybe that's what it's referring to, and I just missed it. Yeah, I don't know that one.
Well,
but the Darksaber I remember from the last season of Mandalorian. So yeah.
Well, the Darksaber has been around for a long time, even
for a long time. Yeah,
the Mandalorian. But yeah, so that one's actually very cool. Is you can get a picture with, the Darksaber, which the Darksaber actually was in Star Wars Rebels as well, and that's where I know it from because there was a whole storyline with the one girl in it. Her name Sabine was a Mandalorian, and she had the Darksaber, and she was actually learning how to use it from Kanan Jarrus, who he was the Jedi master in that. So that one, I feel the Darksaber is it's so different from all the other. I mean, it's the opposite of a lightsaber. So
Yeah.
the pictures just look very cool.
It also looks like it might be a physical prop because they're saying it's only at night that you can do this. So that makes me think that it's an actual real prop that you're holding and this is not like a magic shot.
Yeah. It specifically says the blade can be found across from Oga's Cantina after dark. So I think this is probably something like the lantern.
Oh yeah,
magic
the lantern
shot
they were doing. Yeah.
In Magic Kingdom. So yeah, it's you go to the photo op and they give you the prop, but then I'm sure they do some post magic effects stuff that
I'm sure
makes it light up, or I mean, it looks like it
glow.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks really cool. That's a really cool magic shot, I will say.
Oh yeah, I would actually stop for that one. Like I'll admit that a lot of magic shots, I see them like, oh, that's cool, and you see people lined up for it, but it's very rare that I would be like, I'm going to get in line for this. But a Darksaber shot, I think I would get in line for.
Yeah. And I don't know who this droid is. And
BD1?
again, I'm behind on some Star Wars shows, so maybe
I don't readily remember who that is either. If any of our listeners are listening to this, I'm sure somebody knows about this and they could fill us in. I'll admit, like I said, I know certain Star Wars things, but some of these, there's a lot of droids.
There are a lot of droids. According to a quick Google here on Wikipedia, BD1 is a droid. Wookie. I'm not joking. That's really called Wikipedia. BD1 is a droid character created for the game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So, it's actually not. From the shows.
Yeah, that's the right. I that's where I've seen it now. I remember seeing it in the trailer for Fallen Order. Yeah. There you go. So. Yeah. Interesting. I thought it was one of the shows. I thought it was one of the shows, but it's not. So, okay. Well, yeah. So, listen, these are some cool new shots, and of course, they were doing this as part of May 4th. Which, listen, I like Star Wars. I've said this many times before. Right? Like, I'm a casual Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars, but like, I get a little tired of the May the 4th stuff. Like, it's just like half the posts on my Facebook page are May the 4th stuff, and it's just like, all right. Come on, just can we like not do this? It was a great joke the first time somebody made it, but now that's what
I'm saying. Yeah, like it's I feel like it's worn itself out a little bit, and it's just become a thing that won't die. Like it just continues on. I don't know. I'm sure I'll get some hate for that. That's fine, but it just I don't know. It's just too much of it. Just I don't know. I also don't like the Justin Timberlake it's gotta be May thing. Like that shows up every like April 30th. You know what I'm talking about? That stupid meme?
No.
You really don't know that one? That one's all over the okay. Well, I saw less of that this year, but
I may it doesn't immediately spring to mind for me, I guess is the thing. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so Mother's Day is coming up here, which I have ordered something for my wife for Mother's Day that has not shipped yet. And I would like to say what it is on the show, but I also don't want to give it away. Not that she listens to the podcast, but she can hear me talking while I'm doing this. So, so I do need to keep it a secret for the time being. But
it's funny because, my wife listens to the show, so I need to be careful about what I say too. So
you can't say anything or else it just ruins it. So but anyway, so Disney put out a gift guide for Mother's Day, and I'm just going through some of this stuff. I don't really, I like the little Grogu card, the little pop-up card that they have. That's kind of cool. There's definitely some stuff here that's a stretch, like the Millennium Falcon waffle maker. It's like, okay, well, I want that for Father's Day. How about that?
Okay, but you know what? That the point is, mothers, they have interest in this stuff too. I know you say, well, I could get that for Father's Day. It's just, it's a gift idea, right?
Yeah, no, I know.
Wait, is that
I'm
that a Grogu charcuterie?
Yeah, it is.
It's a cheese
cutting. Yeah, it's a cheese. Which, listen, I got a cheese. I got one of those for my wedding, and I don't think I've ever opened it. I think it's been sitting in my pantry since my wedding. And I eat cheese often. I just never think to go pull out the special little
Let's
knife.
Get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially something like, it looks like it's like in a nice carved wood holder thing, which Yeah, I don't think I would ever use that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if it has Grogu on it, I'm not using it. It's like, oh man, I'm not really. I'm just looking through here. I'm not really seeing much else that I would,
There is
that
a
my
soap
wife would be
dispenser
into. Yeah, the
that,
soap dispenser that does like the flower on Minnie's
right.
hat, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like that's cool, and I like that it's a functional gift. Like it's a you would definitely use it kind of thing. But I don't know if I bought my wife soap for Mother's Day, like.
Oh man, did you scroll down and look at this Dooney and Burke bag, man? The purple one, because my wife doesn't usually like the Dooney and Burke, but like this is a pretty cool one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's got Dumbo on it. It's got Stitch on it. It's got a one of the hitchhiking ghosts. It looks like it's got Mickey as a Jungle Cruise skipper. Tinkerbell. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The hippo from Small World. Like what a random reference that is. The pink hippo, right?
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Haunted Mansion. I see the Walt statue. It looks like.
Oh yeah. The partners
on the one
there.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Cheshire Cat, and then I don't know actually what the tiger looking thing is supposed to be at the top. It's not Tigger? Like what is that?
Is that? I thought that was something at a Small World, but yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. I think that is supposed to be at a Small World. You're right. I feel like they should have put like the duckbill platypus on there, but that's just me.
Right.
That's the one I always look at Small World, But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I like that bag, and I don't always love the Dooney and Burke stuff, but that one's pretty cool. So
yeah, I actually didn't get that far. That's that one definitely does stand out.
Yeah, it's like a lot of cool park references in that one,
Yeah.
So okay, then we got some food. Let's talk food.
All right. Yeah, let's go over to food.
Yeah. But we shouldn't spend too much time on it because we're already pretty far in here. We should probably start wrapping up. But let's talk food. All right. What do we got here? Animal Kingdom Lodge, a Rajiko, a trio of truffles with, what is that? Graham Beck Sparkling Brut Rose. I said rose. Rosé. Sorry. Okay. I mean, that sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
No? You're not feeling that?
No. Yeah. I don't know. Truffles, I feel are like, they're a little too, not busy, but like,
are they too rich for you?
Yeah, they're too rich.
Because my wife doesn't do like rich desserts. She really doesn't like rich desserts, and truffles are too much for her. See, I love rich desserts. Like I love a good truffle. But I get that. Like not everybody's into that. But the thing I'm really looking at on here, Trevor, is these Minnie Mouse things, which are a mini croissant roll, croissant dough with raspberry marmalade. Those look delicious. And that's different. I don't think I've ever seen a croissant like that. It's almost like shaped like a puck.
Yeah. Well, it's a mini. I don't even know how you make a. I think they're making a play on like it's a mini croissant roll. Yeah. Like so, it's small, but it's also like Minnie Mouse themed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's different for sure. I would have to wonder. I mean, it has a raspberry marmalade, which is probably going to be good. I always find that I like the idea of croissants, but when I actually eat one, I don't enjoy it that much.
Oh, really? See, I could eat them. I could just keep eating them forever.
Yeah, I find that I need something with them, and just having a croissant with butter doesn't do anything for me. So
I like that you say croissant the correct way. I say it the stupid American way. You say it the correct way.
What did you say?
I say croissant, right? And you say croissant, right? Like you're just saying it right.
Okay. I didn't even register that. Actually.
Yeah, okay. There's also a chocolate. First of all, I'm going to ignore this shake with a piece of cake on top of it because you know how I feel about those. But what about the chocolate strawberry tart? Chocolate mousse tart topped with strawberry cremeux? Yeah?
Cremeux.
Strawberry balsamic compote and an edible flower. It looks delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Like the picture looks delicious.
Yeah, it looks very clean, right? Like
it looks fancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, most
fancy but not rich.
Exactly. Yeah. By the way, most of these things are only available for this week. So if you're listening to the show when it came out, this week only.
if you're there this week, great. If not, sorry.
You are out of luck. But
Okay. What is
this thing on a stick? I'm wondering the same thing.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I think it's the strawberry shortcake bar.
It is strawberry shortcake bar. Yeah,
strawberry shortcake pop, enrobed in white chocolate and covered in strawberry rice croquant.
Croquant.
Yeah, croquant.
That sounds awesome to me. I really love the ice cream bars that are strawberry shortcake. I don't know if you have those, but I love those. So yeah, that looks good. I would eat that for sure. It looks like there's some little what is this? The strawberry passion fruit bar. Okay, that looks pretty good. Something chiffon. What is it, Cass? I don't know. I think they make up words in these things.
Yeah.
Chiffon, passion fruit curd, strawberry mousse, and strawberry garnish. It's very fancy looking.
A lot of strawberry going on there, which I guess if your mother in your life doesn't like strawberry, don't take her to Disney, I guess.
But I think they're just going with the Minnie Mouse angle, even though Minnie Mouse is historically not a mother, right? She doesn't have kids.
No, but it, it's always that, or yeah, you're right. It's not that Minnie's a mother, but I think there's a lot of moms that are fans of Minnie Mouse.
I guess that's what they're going for, right? But it's Minnie's famously not she has nieces from some unknown sister.
There's that whole the same thing with Mickey and there's that whole expanded universe thing that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's Donald too, right? Donald doesn't have any of his own kids. He's got the he's got the nephews, right? They never have the parents. It's always nieces and nephews, right? I don't know. It's a larger question, I guess.
Yeah, let's be careful diving into that too much.
Okay, fair enough. They've got reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What about this Dole Whip float though? Dole Whip with what is it? Banfi Rosa Regal Sparkling Red.
That's a lot of words to say.
That is a lot of words. What is that? Is that alcoholic?
It looks like it's a sparkling wine of some sort.
It's a sparkling wine. Okay, it's a sparkling red wine. I googled it. So, all right, so it's an alcoholic
Regal sparkling red topped with shimmering edible flowers. So, again, it looks nice.
That as a Dole Whip guy or no?
Yeah, I don't really want alcohol with my Dole Whip, so that's and my wife doesn't like Dole Whip, so I wouldn't get this for her either. Definitely.
How about these Dole Whip pineapple cream puffs with coconut mousse, shaved coconut, and a fondant decor? That's a creative way to use the Dole Whip.
Yeah,
Make cream puffs.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a little more interesting, and they call that the Aloha Mom. I guess. Yeah.
Which, by the way, of course, it's over at Polynesian, right? So.
Kona, I didn't. Yeah, it's Kona and Captain Cook, so you can find it anywhere at the Polynesian, basically. What else do we got?
Pistachio raspberry eclair? No, I don't like pistachio.
And we moved over to Riviera for anyone that's following along. So, you don't like pistachio?
It's not a pistachio fan.
Okay.
Not on my list of nuts that I like.
That's fair. I actually eat a lot of pistachios, but
do you?
I like them. I was happy when they started selling the already shelled ones at the grocery store because it makes a lot. Yeah, pistachios.
Pretty helpful. To not have to shell them. Yeah, I'm a big I'll do cashews or almonds. Those are my two go-to nuts. I feel like. But anyway, I'm basic like that.
This particular one though is pistachio and raspberry, which I don't know how those two go together.
I think that's a good combination, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I've never gone for that. I usually just have straight pistachio. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I will say, just moving on to Wilderness Lodge to Roaring Fork here, very basic cupcake right there. That one's not even worth talking about. It's
well,
right?
it is because I like that they have the little chocolate thing that says mom on it. That looks like something that I would have done in school. Like you know when you do like that, you know when they do the, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, we're doing a Mother's Day project, and you do it, and you write mom on it, and it doesn't
come out great.
Your penmanship's not good, or well, in my case, I'm left-handed, so it's never good. Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what this flower pot thing is. I don't think
it's a cookie bouquet.
Is that what that is? Is the cookie bouquet?
Yeah. Okay.
Vanilla cookies decorated with royal icing, but they're in like a little cup, kind of like it's weird.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I think the cupcake is going to be better to eat, but the cookie bouquet looks better.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. You know, that's a good call out. So. All right, let's get down to Coral Reef here over at Epcot, which I ate at my last trip.
This mousse, looks really good. Yeah.
It looks like the desserts over at what's the restaurant over in Pandora that everybody goes to?
Satuli Canteen.
Satuli Canteen, yeah. It looks like those cheesecakes that they have that are like the little dome things, or like they almost look like a little pop, you know. But this is pistachio and strawberry. Rosewater ganache. I think it's just strawberry because it's pink, right? Like, is that why they're just using strawberry that much?
I guess.
Because like strawberries and raspberries are that color. Like, is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. You know,
all right.
That seems to be the color themed.
It does seem to be the theme, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling down here more just to see anything else that interests me, and I'm not really seeing anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of the. I mean, yeah, you know, for anyone that looks through these things, it's a lot of the same stuff, I guess. Like, you know, like here's Jolly Holiday going over to Disneyland. You know, Jolly Holiday has a Mother's Day donut, which, you know, it's a raspberry donut, with pistachio. I don't know where the pistachio thing is playing into this, or why or maybe they just decided that
like in season or something.
That's the flavor they're trying to work in this time around. I don't know. Yeah.
We've done so many of these. You notice whenever they're doing these short-term things that they use a lot of the same ingredients, which makes sense, right? Like if you're mass producing stuff for a short period of time, it makes sense that you would try to use the same ingredients across several things, right? Like I get it. But it's just, you know, we've done so many of these. I just noticed that seems to happen a lot.
Yeah. But I feel like it's probably from a planning standpoint, it's probably that, like you said, they're looking at going, okay, well, you know, here's like the list of ingredients that we're going to have and, you know, make different dishes out of it. Right. Yeah. Like that's how I feel that they do it, is it's like they start from like you said, you know, we've ordered a bunch of pistachios. So, you know,
put it in everything.
Put in everything for this week.
There's just a pistachio truck backing up to the Magic Kingdom, just like, bring in the pistachios. You know? All right, so let's end it here with talking about some Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 stuff that's coming to the parks. Which I have not gotten to see the movie yet, because as an adult with a 5-year-old, I do not ever get a chance to go see a movie that I want to see. So I will be waiting for that to come out on Disney Plus or on demand. But I don't know if you've gone to see it yet, Trevor. But
I haven't, and my
only because you're away, though, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were out of town this last week, but also, there's very few movies that I can justify paying to see in the theater at this point, because it's very expensive to go to the theater.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is not one of them that you're going to justify? You're just going to wait out with me?
No, it wasn't. And yeah, kind of like you, is, you know, I said to myself, well, I can wait until it's on Disney Plus. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. It's more for me. Like, I would go see it in theaters if I could. I just don't have the free time to do that. You know, like I don't know when I would even do that. So as much as I'd like to. So anyway.
So on to what they're doing in the parks.
Yeah.
So at Disneyland, it looks like Mantis is going to be joining Star-Lord at Avengers Campus for the Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Dance-Off.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh my God. I didn't even talk about this, Trevor. Like, I got to talk about this really quick, right? So, guess you'll find this funny. So my wife's work had like a event, right? Where it was like a employee appreciation event, right? And part of the event, because we went, they had all of these characters, right? Like, so they had people dressed up like different Marvel characters. Like, so there was a guy there that was like dressed up like Captain America, who looked like Captain America if Captain America never worked out a day in his life. Like, and he had like 5 o'clock shadow going on. And then there was a guy dressed like Thanos that was just going around telling people he's misunderstood.
This is like one of those low-key multiverse things is how I would justify it.
That's really what it was, man. I couldn't stop laughing at the characters. I mean, but they had a Mantis too. And it was just, you know, somebody dressed up like, you know, in the Guardians outfit. And like, he just very clearly had like one of those like goofy headbands on that, like, you know, has like the little springy things on it.
Yeah.
Like that's the level of that we were at with this. I think my two favorite things though were probably Batman was there, but you know, he just kind of walked around doing like the I am Batman thing in the voice.
At a Marvel themed, or was it?
It wasn't Marvel themed. It was really a mishmash, right? Like the Pink Power Ranger was there for some reason.
Wow.
Scooby Doo was there. There was
it was just random characters. Is all.
Yeah, it was just random characters. My favorite part though was that the Flash showed up about an hour and a half late to the event, which, you know, you would think the Flash would be on time to everything, right? But you know,
oh, the irony.
Oh man, it was killing me. But especially just like the low effort Mantis, like it was just like they threw out, you know what I'm talking about, one of those headbands that just has like the little springy things, and like, and I just, you know, the guy playing Thanos, which actually he probably had the best costume of everybody. He was just going around telling everybody I'm misunderstood, you know, like it just it's so funny. Anyway, sorry, it was a tangent, but
back to the actual
characters. Yes,
yeah. So Mantis will be at in California Adventure. They also have it looks like some more food.
Yeah, more food.
So they'll have some Guardian specific stuff, which is let's see if I can follow this.
Because they didn't break it out like they do with the usual food stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, so we have the Milky Fizz, which is a dessert pear flavored soda water with cream. Okay, I don't hate that idea. I would try it.
And that's that thing that looks like it's in a Capri Sun bag.
I think that a Capri Sun bag that has a lanyard that you can put it around your neck and drink it all day, I guess, or until it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be at Pym Test Kitchen, and then they also have Orlani on a stick and Experiment 1517, a cardamom and caramel churro cold brew. Whoa. That is crazy.
I don't know what to think about that. Yeah, that's interesting.
And then also you can get Zarg bits. So I'm guessing
they're called Zarg nuts in the movie, aren't they?
A tasty snack inspired by Zarg nuts eaten in the film.
So why don't they call them Zarg nuts? Can they not call them Zarg nuts?
I get the feeling that they probably don't want to label it as Zarg nuts, because then people, especially if it's like, you know, allergies and stuff like that, they maybe don't want to, you know, give people the wrong idea.
Yeah. I'll get. You know what? Good call, Trevor. I'm with you on this.
Yeah, I can see that as a bit of a PR thing. Like they don't want people like arguing about, can you give me the Zarg nuts, you know, with no nuts, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it really just looks like it's almost like a trail mix kind of deal. Like, you know what I mean? It's like just a bunch of random stuff thrown in a bag.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure what it all is.
I see what looks like. Like, have you had bugles before?
Yeah, it looks. I feel like what looks like bugles in there. Yeah. And then there's like some red chip things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the white stuff is here. Like at first I thought it might be popcorn, but it almost looks like a paper towel. Like it's weird, right? I don't know what it is. It's weird. So
but that's okay. I guess the thing is, you know, hey, they're trying to do more tie-ins to the movie, which is good. Like, you know, they're trying to be, I guess, relevant with the movie is probably the best way to say it, because they're
well, it's the last one too. It's like, you know, you think I actually thought they'd do more than this. This seems like kind of like low key to me.
Well, actually, I feel like this is more than they've done for a lot of movies, because I think a lot of movies, like when they come out, you don't see hardly anything, or it's usually like months later that they're like, oh, hey, now we've got this thing, right? Like this seems like they actually timed it very well with the release of the movie.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So then they also too have like they got some stuff at Disney World, right at Epcot, of course, at Connections, because that's really close to Cosmic Rewind. But they have these look like just like waffles that they ripped up into pieces. And it's probably more about the dipping sauce. It's a red berry dipping sauce that comes with it. But again, it's not, doesn't feel, I don't know how this is Guardians of the Galaxy related at all. I mean, it's waffles.
Well, all it says is the perfect sovereign waffle bites, which, okay. Like, I don't know what that means, but.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. So, and I mean, the cookie next to it just looks really basic.
Well, yeah, it looks like the Nova Corp or logo on it. And that's it.
I mean, it just looks like a basic cookie, right? Like it's nothing. Yeah. I mean, it even just says Guardians of the Galaxy cookie. Like it doesn't say like even what it's flavored as. It's just a cookie. I like this further down though. This little Groot
Groot
thing.
cookie.
Yeah, it's a
where
baby Groot mousse. Is that what that's supposed to be? But there's like a cookie though. I don't know. But this one is over in Paris though, because they have the whole Marvel Hotel.
Inside Walt Disney Studios Park over at Studio One at the Web Food Truck. So this is in Paris, yeah.
Yeah, this is in Paris, yeah.
You can try the Flora Colossus biscuit shaped as our favorite little guardian is what it says.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. There it is.
So they didn't outright say Groot, but yeah, you can get a Groot cookie in Paris.
Why wouldn't they say Groot? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's just weird. I like the way they word stuff sometimes. It just feels like they're just being careful unnecessarily for certain reasons. I don't know. Who knows why? I do also like, this is funny. It's time to create your superhero pose with the all new Disney PhotoPass Magic Shot until May 21st that features your favorite trash panda. Like, I just love that they called him a trash panda.
Well, that's what Quill calls him.
I know. I love that they decided to put that in there. That makes me laugh really hard. I also just like too that they have a ice cream bar that they just threw a chocolate cassette tape on. Just like, here, now it's Guardians. Like, we threw a cassette tape on it. It's Guardians now.
I mean, to be fair, they could have, that chocolate mold could have been used for everything else.
Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes we don't give Disney enough credit. Some of these things look, we don't always agree with it, but at least they don't like find one thing and just slap it on everything.
That's
right?
true. You're right. It's usually unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's wrap this thing up, Trevor. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's, all right. Let's get back to the rundown because I lost my place.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good now. I was clicking through there was a lot of links this week and I was clicking through all of them and I got a little lost, but
that's fine. I just gave you a lot of links this week. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So as usual, if you guys want to reach us, you can always find us at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your questions, hearing trip reports, all that kind of stuff. So you can, always feel free to drop us an email. If you'd rather follow us on social media, you can go to Facebook and find us as Welcome Home Podcast. Same thing on YouTube. Or you can look on Instagram for Welcome Home Pics. And if you are on Facebook, also check out our Facebook group, Welcome Home Disney Waitlist, where we have all of our great listeners that love to post it. And just a quick shout out to everybody that has been posting this last week. I know Damon, mentioned last week that he hasn't been as active in the group because
they heard the call and they responded, right?
Yeah, he felt like he was kind of carrying the torch, but it's super cool that people have stepped up and just started posting stuff. I think it makes for lots of great discussion in the group, and we'd love to see more of that because, everybody is always very positive and very willing to talk about Disney and be respectful of one another in there. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check it out. if you would like to help support the show, you can go to store.welcomehomepodcast.com and check out some of our different merchandise that we have there. So things like t-shirts and mugs and stuff like that. Or if you like Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/welcomehomepod and check out our different levels of Patreon supporters that we have on there. Also with Patreon, anybody who does support us through Patreon does get access to our Discord server, which is a little bit more of an intimate place. We have more, I don't want to say
more personal conversations. Maybe
personal, but I think it's more just like stream of thought where Facebook is like there's conversations that happen, but Discord is a little more like, or it's like a chat room, right? So, we kind of have a lot more back and forth in there. So if that's interesting to you, consider supporting us on Patreon. And as usual, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Those reviews do actually help more people find the podcast because that's just how algorithms work. And if you're on iTunes, leave us a review because we do read those reviews and we also like hearing feedback from people.
I have a review this week, Trevor.
All right, cool. What do you got?
This is actually maybe one of the nicest things that people have ever, anybody's written about us. So this is actually really nice. This is from Jason. Hey guys, longtime listener, first time reviewing. I think I joined in around episode 8 or 9 and have been hooked ever since. That's amazing. First of all,
ooh.
Like I know we have a lot of listeners that have been here since the very beginning, and that's really cool. But like 8 or 9, that's amazing, man. And
mm-hmm.
He said your show has been great from the start. I don't know if that's true or not, Jason, but but thank you. But has certainly grown, and I love all the additions. As much as Damon seems a lesser fan of long shows, this is one of the things I love. It's perfect for my long commutes. Now for the person everyone loves to hate, Damon. Damon, I can't tell you how much as a parent and youth counselor for 20 years, just how much I admire the fierce dedication and commitment you have for your family. I know that you take a lot of heat for this in listener reviews and comments for allowing your family to interfere with podcast recording schedule, but don't ever stop. You're a husband and a father who absolutely has his priorities in order. Tom and Trevor, you both bring so much to the show, and together you guys all mesh wonderfully. I can't even imagine the pre and post work that's required. Okay, since I was nice to Damon, I have to end this with a poke in his ribs. I am a 50-point blue card carrying member who purchased my points in 2007 for $77 a point at Saratoga. Just another story to support the fact that no one ever says, I wish I bought DVC later. Keep up the amazing work. I truly appreciate the show. Such a nice review, Jason. Like seriously, if they were all like that, man, like that's so nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, seriously, like that, made my weekend. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
So please leave reviews for us. We love reading those on the show if we get them. And like Trevor said, it really helps us out a lot. And even if you listen on Spotify, you can't leave a review, but you can leave a star rating. So leave us our star rating on there, 5 stars, please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home Podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. You can find our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify. Just about any podcast app out there, you can find us. Just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, all opinions we express on the show are our own. So please contact a DVC cast member or regular cast member for more information about anything we talked about today. Huge thank you to our sponsor of this episode, DVC Resale Market, and to Jody for joining us on the show today and going through all that DVC stuff. I'm really happy that we got to talk a lot about DVC because I know, we don't do that as much as we'd like, I think sometimes. But when there's a lot of stuff going on with DVC, it's this was a good time. So
Disney just needs to hurry it up so we can talk about it more on the show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they just need to do more things, right? Join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion. Of course, more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.